Equalization Board to order. I have now turned on the microphone, so I don't have to work so hard. Today is May the 5th, Wednesday. For those of you of a certain Hispanic origin, you know that this Cinco de Mayo today, a holiday, so we're having to work on a holiday. Yesterday, for those of you who are Star Wars fan, know that it was May the 4th be with you. So we are in a celebratory mood. We hope as we go through today's agenda that you will leave with at least satisfaction that you've been heard, even if you may not achieve exactly what you want in the numbers. In any case, I'll ask for a call of the roll.
Dr. Tatchell,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwilly,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
All present and accounted for. We are going to make one agenda change at the very top. And that is we're going to proceed to hear the 3 residential protests that are on today's agenda. One of them was already at the top, and we'll begin with that in just a minute. But the 2 at the bottom, we will now move to follow that first one. After we have done the residential in that order, then we will proceed with the commercial as they are listed on the printed agenda. Therefore, the first protest item today is 1120, Rebecca Ann Tripke. Is Miss Tripke? Yes, please. You know, I think it's the easiest to come up here and probably sit in that chair with that microphone. Yeah, it does turn on. I don't know. It's on. Okay, so if you feel you need it, just pick it up and use it. I wish we had one on the stand for you, but that's what yes, you can use that one. Let me begin by reading what I have from you in writing, and then I'll give you a chance to add anything you want or to comment on what you have submitted. After that, we'll give the assessor staff a chance to speak to the protest before the board actually considers and makes its decision, okay? This property is at 5003 South Troost Avenue Board. It was previously on, after being informal, for $69,120 as its assessment. She is saying that she believes that's incorrect. It should be corrected to $64,000 even. And she has attached some information. If I'm reading this correctly, it says, as I protested in 2016, 17, 18, and have stated nothing has been done to add value to my house. No updates, improvements, no changes, none. And the correction to your website, house sketch, there's no 10 by 12 foot WD. Is that a separate?
It was a porch, it was a deck.
Oh, okay. And that's not.
It hasn't been there since 1980.
Okay, got it. All right. And what other houses sell for does not add value to my house. All right. Please continue to add anything else you want to add to that.
Okay. I brought pictures if that helps. I was told
You're certainly
this is
welcome.
all a learning experience for me. I apologize for not being very well prepared.
Oh, no
The
worries.
time is
You
not
must
on
look
my
at
side.
pictures, you will. The only thing I tell you is anything that you give me, I have to keep and let the clerk file it.
I
So,
understand that. I had thought you said it's
super.
be easier for me
Yeah.
to look at.
I'm worried about,
Look
worried
at
about, he looks fast.
Yes, and I'll pass mine down too as I go. All right, if you want to go on commenting about anything that the pictures are showing, please feel free
The
to
house
do
is
that.
original from 1950, had no updates over the years. It had carpet all its life until I pulled it up. The wood floors all need refinishing and the windows need replacing or to be recaulked. Because their glass can come out very easily. My son was to help me with all this, but he's a new quadriplegic now, and I think that his help, so it's kind of up in the air, so we're not getting anything done.
By the way, if you want, you can remove your mask. You're 6 feet away from us, so you don't have to
Okay.
have it on.
No problem.
I see you're showing us pictures of both bedrooms and also kitchen.
Okay, I have the front of the house and the back of the house. You can see where one window needs total replacement. The garage is just one car.
Air conditioning is in the window unit.
Yeah, it has 4 furnaces that don't work properly. The kitchen is old style.
Yeah.
Nothing updated or fancy. So I got a picture of the hall. The bath is original. The sink and tub should be replaced. They're staying old, 50 years old.
Yeah.
Then I got the bedrooms with the small closets and all the floors need to be refinished.
As I see, they give us a spreadsheet. By the way, all of this we're looking at kind of fresh today, so. it's not
Yeah.
The one piece of information I picked up by looking just now at the spreadsheet is they say that you're using this as a rental property that produces $600 a month. Is that?
I did once for 1 year.
Oh, but it's not rented now.
No, it hasn't been rented again.
Are you living?
No, I did live in it until 2005.
So it sits empty now, is what you're saying?
Yes, it's been empty for 1 year. I had it rented.
Yeah.
That's it.
The other
It's not
thing
for
that-
sale, excuse me, not for sale.
No. And I did look at the local sales and stuff around the neighborhood, and I know all the houses have gone up in price, but they were sold at like 60,000 and 55,000 over the years. Mine's, I'm afraid, one of the last ones that's still original. So it's maybe if I get it updated, I'd be more proud to tell anybody and have the taxes raised. But I just don't feel it's worth much more than that. And that's just my opinion. And hopefully in the future, I'll be more prepared. I'll talk to a real estate agent and learn more about what I should be knowing.
The only thing else that they show us, and I'm gonna ask the Tulsa assessor staff to come and talk about this protest. But the only thing they're required is equalization. So they try and show us comparable properties in that neighborhood.
I
And that's
understand
what
that,
they
yeah.
list. And square footage right now on yours is $64.96 a square foot. They're showing that you are dramatically the lowest, about 50% of what the others, but you may well be right, and we'll listen to them of whether there's a lot of renovation going on in the neighborhood that may be being trended up, which quite often produces those dramatic differences.
Yeah.
Anything else before I ask him to talk?
No, I'm basically just saying on my feelings, I guess, that it's not worth. I've had one offer on the house and that's one of those 5 people and that was so insulting. So, that's all I know. So I value your opinion and we'll go with that.
I've got a question.
Please.
You've indicated that you filed appeals 216, 217, and 218.
Yes.
Just before the board during those times.
No, they adjusted it down. It's been 63,800 and then 64, they got it back down to 64,000. I missed an appeal and it got away from me. But they did, it's for the last 3 years, it's been 64,000.
Any other questions, members of the board? All right, who's representing this protest? It must be you. Introduce yourself, please, and explain.
Don Kelly with the Tulsa County Assessor's Office. What we got is this house was trimmed this year. That's when it went up from 64,000 up to the 69,000. This is a pretty hot neighborhood. It's not too far off of Riverside. There is a lot of flipping going on. These with the gathering place being what it is, it's just driving everything to the roof. So that's what happened here. Ms. Tripleke's house is, it's quite a bit lower than the rest of the neighborhood. Her neighbor's at 100,000 and right across the street's 150,000. So, but we're also looking at, houses that have been remodeled, sold, flipped.
So the 150,000 across the street, is it a remodel? Is it new?
It's hard to tell, but I think I would believe it is. I mean, like I say, these houses are about the right size for folks to come in here and.
The one across the street, they put a room over the garage and it should be considerably larger and they remodeled the houses on one side and the other and it's been a lot of changes.
And there's like, she was saying, I mean, if the house is so much lower than the rest of the neighborhood, that's where the increase came from this year. It was in the trending for the whole neighborhood. But as you can see for the sales and stuff, we're $30 below the lowest sale on just first square footage price.
Yeah, most of the houses have been sold now. One was 60,000, one was the other. I put in one of the protests. I think mine's the last one. And I plan on working with a real estate agent, finding out what it is really worth. I should know that. And all I have are my feelings right now. So, and I know that is terribly low. It's almost embarrassing.
Well, another thing that we deal with, just looking at her pictures, is she would have some real cost secured before she put it out in the market to try.
Right, but you're talking about a house that was sellable. You're talking at $100,000, and so 35,000 probably go a long way with 1,000 square foot home.
Yes, it would.
So that's kind of, we try to put people in,
Sure. Are they doing anything where they go and buy one house like hers, destroy it, build what we call infill new?
not through that as much. Like I say, a lot of these are being just interior remodel, basically just refreshing. They do add on to some of them, but not like if she was a little bit further down, say Peoria or something, where they've got 1,200 square foot house next to 4,000. Nothing like that, but it is a nice little neighborhood. And like I say, it's just those houses just the right size for people to go in there, kind of entry level. So.
I'll admit you, the potential on remodeling this house is tremendous. You could put a 3-car garage in the backyard. Utica's just an alley street.
Yeah, I noticed.
And so it's dreams I had when I was younger and first working on this house, but it's just not going to happen with me. So and my son's not going to be able to do it now. So
Other members of the board want to ask Don, Mr. Kelly, any questions? Okay, my opinion actually is that reducing it back to where it was, which was the 64,000 that she asked for from last year, 64, is not a huge reduction. And certainly she would have to put, I think, at least that much to just even talk to a real estate person about selling the house. That would not be a major renovation, $5,000. What do the rest of you think? because I'm proposing therefore to adjust that back down to 64,000.
I'll second
Okay. I will move to adjust to 64,000 on the basis of at least 5,000 of cost to cure for her to begin to be able to sell this house on the market as the fair market value in its present condition. Is there a second to
that.
that?
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to adjust to 64,000 even. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwilling,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
Yes, so acted on by the board to adjust to 64,000 as the fair market value in its present condition, allowing for cost to cure of at least $5,000.
Sorry, what is $5,000? I don't understand.
You don't have to do anything. I'm just saying that the reason it's fair for the board to lower your assessment back to where it was, 64,000, is we would say it would take at least that much up forward to bring it up to fair market. That is where you
Yeah.
can put it on the market. So that's all it's meant. It restores you to where you were last
Okay.
year.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, if you were still renting it, then the board probably would have sustained it because you at least would have an income, but you don't. So,
Amazing what tenants do with somebody else's house.
well, that
I
too.
don't know that I can handle that.
I should let you do that. Okay. The photographs. I think this is a full packet.
Yeah, it is.
They've got a second.
if they want, if she wants it, they can say.
You can take the second packet back if you want to.
Okay.
I think, did you have that?
We passed them down.
Oh, you did?
Oh.
Got two packets?
Got two
Well,
packets.
don't let her sort it, then you don't have to take time to do it right now. All right.
Do you
we
want
need
me to
move
send
on.
you the second set?
Sure, I'll take it back. Or you're gonna
I'll
send
have
that?
to send it
That's
to you.
fine.
I don't have time to sort
I
that.
Not
understand.
right now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Hopefully,
very much.
you're welcome.
I appreciate it.
As I said, we're moving ahead with the residential, so we're skipping to the bottom of the printed agenda. The next one on our agenda, therefore, would be 1325, and Atenka and Yana Patel. Is there a representative here? Yes,
I believe they control.
Yes.
they withdrew.
They have withdrawn here.
Okay, oh, there it is. You want to hold that, or you want me just to attach? I'm just gonna
I'll
write.
attach it to that. I'll put it in file, just so
Okay,
you know.
thank you.
So
Yeah.
1325.
It is on our protest agenda 1325. I'm going to read into the record what I have, and then I will make a motion to withdraw it from the agenda. This property, protest number 1325, is located at 4013 South McGowell Avenue in Broken Arrow. It was previously on for $1,800,000. He was appealing initially to correct it down to $1,375,000 because the real estate has changed due to the pandemic and to its age. Therefore, we have been informed in writing that Mr. Patel wishes to withdraw this from our protest agenda. I so move. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called to withdraw.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwilling.
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
So ordered by action of the board to remove from the agenda. Okay. So, get you closer to me or chairs out of the way or something. All right, the last on our printed agenda is the next one we'll deal with. That is 1337 in terms of the appeal protest number. And that is by Robert and Heather Hoffman. Are you going to speak up to this one before I even read it into the record or not?
Yes, sir.
Well, go right ahead then.
I'm Don Kelly with the Tulsa County Assessor's Office. We talked to Mr. Hoffman. He had sent in an appraisal between the informal and the formal, and we decided on the appraisal price, $601,000.
601,000 by
Yes, sir.
agreement.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, hearing the report from the assessor staff, I move that the board adjust this by agreement to 601,000 between the assessor and the owner. Is there a second to my motion?
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called to adjust.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwilling,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
Right, the board has acted to adjust this to the agreed upon value of 601,000. Now, we move from that change in our agenda to move back towards the top and pick up the first of the commercial protests, which is item board 1276 Thomas and Bridget Paris. It's a commercial property. Is someone here to represent it? Please. Just sit down in that chair and you're close to that microphone. If you wish to use it, just pick it up. Okay? Let me read what we have in writing from you, and then we'll give you an opportunity to address this in any way you wish or add other materials. First, this property is located at 704 South 8th Street and 708 South 8th Street in Broken Arrow. It was previously on for $234,900. They're proposing to leave it at that. She says in her written appeal that she would like to separate the properties and inspect it, then we can talk. We want the two separated again. Two of our employees talked us into this combination. No adjustment or higher taxes to us. Not so. We did not protest last year. Very costly. I asked, come and inspect. Please, I will meet you there. Did such an inspection, a visual inspection happen?
No.
Okay, well, we'll find out about that in a minute. Is there anything else you want us to add to this?
Well, because I submitted a lot of pictures.
Yeah,
you know,
I see them.
And really, we own like 4 properties right in that area. And so anyway, then I looked up and made a chart on all the taxes we have paid, and it just really seemed to fluctuate. And so anyway, it's just, I just figured the taxes are way too high for the property, what the property looks like, especially on the inside now.
And this is a residential property? No, I'm sorry, this is what kind of commercial property?
But it's just a buildings.
Is it currently under lease?
It is right now. Yeah, it was empty for about a year. And we had to have the outside sealed. It's still up slab, so, you know, but That's about all we did. We had the roof repaired, but it's probably needs a new roof. The setup roof been on there over 20 years, so we have leaks every so often.
Let me pass some of these materials down. I don't think, did you guys get that?
I got it.
Oh, you got
I
it?
got it.
You look at
Yes,
that
they
one,
all
I've
have
got it. I've got it attached to this. So you look at that one, Charles. It is currently leased. What is the income you're receiving under the current?
It's right now for 2,000.
2,000 per month.
And he's just been in, very briefly. And
Is it
so,
a year by year lease or?
yeah.
Does the building sit on both lots or is one lot vacant?
One is vacant, yes. The one that was combined with it, there's nothing on it. And there's pictures of that as well. That was just an empty lot.
So you
And that
want-
has really never been rented out or anything. We just bought it in case we thought we might need it, but really, all we do is have it mowed every year.
Is there a structure on both
No.
lots or just on the
No,
one lot?
just,
Is this the building, the blue, is it the blue building?
no. This
There
right
it
here,
is.
this is the
Yeah, we
building.
got a picture. I keep forgetting, we got this over there, because I'm used to having it right in front of me. So that is the building, and you say you have it currently leased for 2,000 a
Mhm.
month. What is the nature of the business of the leasing?
He has a remodel type business where he works on repairing cabinets inside there or, building certain items.
And the lot that is vacant is the one in that picture that's got black asphalt on it, is that?
No, that's the part of the building, that's the
Oh,
parking
that
area.
is, okay.
But the picture of the empty lot comes a little bit later, because I took
Oh,
quite a few
well, they give
pictures.
us an aerial, look at the blue there. So
That's a building next door, that doesn't belong to us.
right, but your empty lot's the one where the arrow is moving, right? On that screen, you see the big.
Well, it's
blue?
not on that picture at all,
It isn't.
no,
It's not next door to,
it is next door, but this is the parking lot.
no, look over at the aerial view. You see the aerial view?
Yeah, I can't see that real well.
Well, they've got, that's where they're showing us the empty lot. Whoops, we lost it.
That's the empty lot.
That's us. Who is the assessor's staff that is speaking to this? Please, would you come forward? I think it would help us to answer a couple of questions right off the bat. And introduce yourself first.
Baron, Leslie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Baron, do you know anything about her request to separate these two properties so that there would be two parcels of her?
They requested it back in 16. Here's this, where they signed and approved the combination. But, this is not an argument here for us.
Okay.
We're here for value. If she wants to put it, separate it back apart or whatever, I'm sure that'd be fine. I mean, she gets one, the only difference is she gets one tax bill now versus two.
Sure.
So,
So then
But I'm
merge
comparing-
two doesn't enhance the
no, sir.
system.
No, sir, the overall money would still be the same.
And that overall money is what you're recommending, 234,900?
I believe probably what the problem is here is that the taxpayer has been up against the 5% cap for the last 10 years. Well, obviously you can understand the frustration within that, but the cap has been removed. And the cost and income approach do support the value or the cost and market approach. The market approach says that the comps are $47 to $54, okay? The subject's currently at 31.
Do you have some kind of presentation you were gonna show us?
You know,
Oh,
because I didn't know what we were going to discuss. I didn't know. And like you say, I have not been privy to the pictures, nor as far as the request to inspect the property, that was not at the informal. So that has all happened subsequently.
I see.
But in previous appeals, we've noted that there's, there is a deferred maintenance problem. There are vacancy issues in the past, and we've tried to consider all of that. And comparatively speaking, they are, are on the lower end of the spectrum. But, and I did an income approach based off of what she's, they're projecting now. And it falls right in there. It just depends, if you use 5% vacancy versus 10%, that's a $10,000 question. So I think we're pretty fair, but as far as an income approach, I think we've got a little latitude to move. I wouldn't be opposed to anything like that because the building does suffer, obvious, age and depreciation.
Did you have a corrected number in mind? She's requesting, what was it here?
I'm not sure.
No, you didn't put a number down either for us. But that's current value is still listed as the 234,900, but when it says adjusted value, you do not, am I quoting correctly? You haven't given us a,
No, but kind of what I'm going by, and I gave one of these where I compared the taxes, for instance.
well,
And so in 2020 there, we own a property down on the other side of Glen Lane. So that the taxes were like 2348.
what
And-
you have to understand about this board,
Right,
we don't speak to taxes. We talk only about fair
Right.
market value.
okay,
Now, I know that impacts the taxes,
exactly,
but we don't. We can't adjust the taxable value. That is not our role. So we have to treat it as if it's up for sale or could be up for sale. And that this would be the number that to a buyer and a seller in a fair market situation would agree upon. That's what what we are charged to do as a board,
okay.
not speak to the taxes.
And so who would that be? Because the taxes on that particular property, even combining it with this, is way higher than the other properties. The taxes are, and they shouldn't be, the value of this one is really less than the other, because the way that that's written.
So are you showing, I see the thing now, you're talking about this page.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And see there,
And what you're saying is what he said, you've gone up because the 5% tax cap was raised on this kind of property.
She's been getting notices for the last 10 years, getting the 5% up because of the cap, but now the cap has been removed as of last year.
Okay.
So
So that's why, well, I'm trying to understand. As long as the fair market value remains the same, what is pushing the taxes up if she's hit, you're saying the cap is removed? And so that
there
means
was,
the tax rate hasn't changed, but because the value has remained the same, the taxes are increasing.
and now they're equal.
I mean, I haven't caught up with this business about removing the cap. Has that been removed on just commercial properties or resident or everything?
No, it's a product of the system. Once that taxable number reaches that market value, the cap is removed.
Never heard of that.
To what result?
Well, it stops her from getting a notice every single year from now on, or whatever. If you had market value of $500,000 and you had a taxable of 250,000, well, 5%, I mean, that's gonna go on till after you and I are long gone dead, you know?
No, we understand that part, but when it's removed. that's
I know
what
the
we-
verbiage is kind of swirly I see where you're going with it, but that's the way we use the term. Is once they have both come together, the cap has been removed and the taxable and the market are one.
I'm still struggling because, let me look at.
Help me help you.
Well, no, I'm looking at the green sheets now. Anyway, well, I'm struggling. Do
Yeah,
other members of
I'm
the
trying to
board
listen and understand.
have questions? Because on my green sheet, it shows no change in the market value. And therefore, that the current taxable value is that value, and therefore I would say, why is it going up?
It's not anymore. It was up until, if you can see the value streaming on it, it was like that 175,000. Well, that 175 was trying to catch that 200 and whatever it is, 234.9. So it was going to doing that 5% in increments every single year. And to reiterate that 5% increment is going to keep going until it catches that market.
Which is set at 2,349.
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
And that market's been there for long.
That 234.9's been there for about 6 years.
That's why I'm really confused. Have we on the board thought that?
There's gotta be a little bit more to it. If you said for 6 years, it's been 234.9.
Nine,
But this year it went up or did it not?
No, it's still 234.9.
but the taxes went up.
The taxes did not go up.
Huh.
The taxable achieved the market value last year. So now they're one and the same. They are equal. They're not under the cap rule anymore because they're one and the same. You don't have any more 5% increments. As in residential, it would be 3%.
Why does she think that her taxes have gone up this year? That's what she reported. Is she just inaccurate?
I think I don't know. I can't speak.
Well,
Well,
yes, show us where.
okay, well, what I'm saying is, before these two were combined, obviously the taxes on the empty property were low. What they would be today, I have no idea. What I'm comparing it to is the property we own on 12th Street and this property here. The taxes, the difference is like, say, $1,100. So I'm assuming either these taxes went up or the empty lot surely couldn't be $1,000. Because it's,
Well, no, what was your tax bill last year? Did that change?
for
this
that
year?
one, but well, it went up over the year before, but we didn't protest last year. I think I had called one time and then you couldn't come to the courthouse or whatever. So it has gone up consistently. But if I add the two together, I would have to assume, comparing it to the other property, that is, it's like $1,100 more.
Ms. Harris, what do you think your property is worth?
I really don't know. I'm just really looking at it.
This is our value summary, if I can interrupt for a minute. Right here is your 234,900. That goes back to 2017, okay? Here's your adjusted taxable. So you can see back before then, we were at 189. We said, well, that's still too low. So we went 234. But all of that time, you can see this taxable is just trying to catch up. And here we caught it last year. This is your 5% increment as it's going up because your market value is already established. And it's trying to catch that number.
Sure.
So this is where you see these going up in 5% increments from 170,500 to 209 to 219, so on and so on. Is that kind of clear?
Of course, no, that's what I expect.
Okay.
I guess I'm just saying she's reported to us that our taxes went up. What you're saying is they have not, they were frozen.
Well,
last
and
year.
then now they very well may have because of the mill rate, but that wouldn't be enough to.
That's nothing, yeah, we
Yeah.
can't do anything about the rate. I don't, I mean, you can try to separate the properties, but what he has pointed is what we normally experience with commercial properties, which is whatever was the fair market value, which is, as I said, our board can only speak to that. That is, it is now 234,900. It didn't change from last year. They didn't push that up.
Well,
What you're saying is my taxes.
it is the
went-
taxes, because like I said, it either they're figuring this lot, the taxes are 1,000, which there's no way it could be that. Because I'm comparing it to another building that is about the same size, and I know that's not how you look at it. But I can't look any different at it, you know what I mean?
What year were they combined?
It's been several years.
2017,
And it be longer than that.
this is,
Well, it might.
they applied, date of request was April of 16. And it was taken 4/17, so it was taken in 16 and applied in 17.
Well, but it wasn't anything that we requested.
Prior to the combination, what was the value of both together? I can't.
Of that, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I could tell you, well, no, that would be the 180, whatever, in that value somewhere. Because that would be before the combination. It's a good question. Let's see. So the combination was here. Yeah, it went from the 2016 is 189,000, then it went to the 234,900. So that 189 was the
What lot?
the subject itself. The rest of that money was that vacant lot. They combined them. That's how they got the 234,900.
But the sum of, I mean, you got A and you got B, and you tax them and you come back to the same.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
The value was the same.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything there is certainly nothing this board can do to separate the properties. We don't have that jurisdiction. Where does she go if she wishes to do that legally? You know,
Back to the office.
to the assessor's office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then you have a way in which you can ask.
I believe that. I'm pretty sure they can reverse that.
We didn't have to do anything. There was no deeds and anything.
No.
It was just done there. They
That,
said,
the tax roll didn't change by having done that.
No, sir. Okay.
Ms. Harris, you can go go up to our office on the 5th floor and ask for the title research department, and they will take care of that request for you, and it'll be for 2022.
Can't happen this year. That this taxable year. I don't think there's anything this board can do for you, but I'm willing to hear otherwise from my other board members. I think all we can do is sustain the current value of 234,900 as the value that is the fair market, and the taxes went up, I guess, a year ago to what we think of as the cap.
well,
That is, that value is what you're being taxed on. They didn't
so but
increase it.
who would I talk to about the taxes? Because
Well, you're not gonna get anybody, I don't think, directly to talk to you about changing taxes. The millage sets that, the legislature sets that. So it's all focuses on this fair market value. That's the only thing the assessor finally sets, and the only thing therefore the board can review.
okay, so but today then, can somebody tell me on this empty lot, 708 South 8, what would the taxes have been?
We can't tell you. I don't know if they can. You guys have. any
No,
way of
because
researching
then
it?
you're
The
going.
combined base doesn't change.
That's right. I mean, arbitrary.
Charles, can you explain that a little more?
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying, it's,
What's the difference in the 234 and the 189?
6 years.
No.
Right.
I think that's what you said. One lot was 189, the other one was, no, that's not right either.
Ms. Gaines, if I could,
189 from 234.
Please, but you need to identify yourself for the record.
Tracy with the Tulsa County Assessor's Office. One of my colleagues sent me a screenshot and the value, I believe, of the vacant lot was at 52,000.
that lot. Goodness,
I believe that's what it's.
it's 708 something.
So I can, if you give me a minute, I can,
Sure.
Read, I'll tell you where you find the.
I can go in there and.
Read Ken Brass's.
Let's, if we're gonna, is the board comfortable for us to delay this to the end of the agenda and let her try and figure this out upstairs before we act? Or do you want to go ahead and sustain?
We're probably, I would think we should go ahead and sustain. and
Yeah, the
let
base
them
number
clear
is
that
not
out.
changing, whether you
No,
divide
sir.
it two or as one whole. Is what I'm hearing. I would move to sustain.
I think my colleagues and I believe that we have no legal authority to address your tax issue. All we can do is address this, and all the information we have in front of us from you and others doesn't suggest we should change the fair market value. Sorry.
So I have to talk to you then?
I'll talk to you outside.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let me move then, or no, I'm gonna let you guys move this one. Charles?
I move that we sustain 234,000.
Okay,
Second motion.
it's been moved and seconded. We'll vote to sustain as the roll is called.
Dr. Cashel,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwiller,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
Okay, yeah. These are the two that we can argue, probably. The next two items, board, if you look at your agenda, are listed as both 1288 and 1289 as owned as commercial real estate by the CARE LLC. Is the representative here? Yes. Quite often when we see things like this, there can be one economic unit. Is that the way you're treating it with these two?
Yes, it's two parcels of ground, one with one improved.
Okay. Let me just read again what I've got in writing from you in that order, and then I'll give you an opportunity to discuss any way you want. Let's see, there are two parcels here. One is 8525 East 41st Street in Tulsa. That is protest item 1288. Protest item 1289 is 8525 East 42nd Street. Also then, they are owned by TARE, T-A-R-E LLC. The first protested parcel is listed as having been 757,000 assessed last year. The current value the assessor is proposing is 740,000. He is stating that he believes it should be corrected to 437,900 for the following reason. The property is located in two parcels and was purchased for 875,000 for both. On December the 30th, 2020, closing statement of deed is enclosed and was provided at the informal deed. Similarly, he is stating that the same amount he is requesting on the other protested parcel is 437,005, and exactly for the same reason that I just read. So please, where are you on this?
Well, on December 30th, this property was purchased by Terra.
Yeah.
And it was purchased for a total of $875,000. That included
Both lots, I'm sorry.
both lots and the improvements. And this particular property, we have represented it through our company for several years. And basically it had a burnout on the back. And so they reduced the number of rooms. We have 68 operable rooms. It had been inspected, and then it was shown that it only has 68 operable rooms as a hotel. So from that perspective, the sales transaction was an arm's length transaction. They closed it at the end of 2020. That should probably set the value for the property, even though it's on two lots. Now, that could be adjusted at some point in time during the future if we just combine those lots at the assessor's office, or combine them or replatted them or did something like that. We haven't done that because this property has been through several ownerships. So
And what you're saying,
it is a hotel. It's called Tulsa, Tulsa Executive Suites, or their extended stay.
and it had a fire, you're saying that resulted in the loss of some of the rooms to rent?
It was a loss of over 70 rooms as far as that was concerned. So we've done the work on it. The unfortunate part about it is when you close at the end of the year, you don't have any kind of record of what kind of income it had or anything else like that. This particular property was owned by one of my clients by the name of Dixit Kadakia. Dixit is a hotelier here in Tulsa, and he has moved from Tulsa to Florida. So he's in the process of liquidating his particular properties. This gentleman has worked for him several years and bought it. And we do have the closing statement, and it was filed, the deed was filed. And so that's where we see the value.
So what you're saying is this was an arm's length transaction.
Arm's length
even though it wasn't. We're going to have to hear the assessor step out on that, because it sounds like that may be the issue between why you had to protest and appeal it. Who is the assessor on this one, please? Thank you. Identify yourself. to the board.
Tessie Davis, I'm with the Tulsa County Assessor's Office. And do you have my packet in front of you? I have lots of copies.
Okay, I don't think, did we get a packet? I guess, I thought that was his packet, but Sheriff's, your packet, we'll compare. Thank you. Yeah, no, we don't have that.
Thank you.
Have you had a chance at the informal to discuss this issue with them?
No, I have not, because I was just brought in recently into the deal.
Okay.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Do you happen to have a copy that you could look at?
I do not.
That's all right, you can read it, because we're basically, we look at properties from a commercial perspective and marketing it on what the market is looking like. This is an unflagged hotel. And it only has 68 rooms, and so we put a value on it as the room value.
But you're saying that 875
Is what it's paid for. It's what,
was a fair, it was a sale.
yeah, it was a sale, and it's a fair depiction of what we have there.
Now go by it, please, sorry. I just want to make sure that I understood what he was claiming.
The 875 encompasses both.
Then that's where the confusion is really part of this, is because you have one hotel built on two parcels of ground.
Okay.
It should have been, when it was done, under today's circumstances, it should have been replatted when it was built, but this was built in the early 80s, and so we didn't do those things. NCOG wasn't involved in all the things that go on as far as platting and taking it to the city council and all the other things that go on. We do that on a regular basis anymore. If we're going to build a new facility, we replat the ground, and sometimes we may have 25 lots that become lot one, block one. And that is what happens. This particular one should have been done that way, but when it was originally built, we weren't doing it that way. Tulsa.
Now, I believe she's also gonna treat it as one economic unit.
I am,
And
yes.
that's fine. That's how we looked at it. And that's how it was purchased,
Okay.
was one economic unit.
And it was I'm sorry,
No,
purchased
no.
for 800.
875,000. Do you have that? Do you have that sales?
I've been trying to see if I have that in the packet.
Can I give you these? Would that help?
Please, yes, that would help. But I think we do have something like that.
That is the sales, that is the closing statement.
Yeah, that was what,
That's closing statement, which is
Okay.
probably in the contract. This is the deed.
okay. And have you been able to see these?
I have the deed, yes.
Okay. All right. Now, Charles, did you have another question? Yeah, or-
Well, I'm trying to get it sorted out where we're not debating the fact that two parcels cost 875,000.
That is correct, but it's an improved two parcels.
Right, so the two
Okay.
parcels combined, the hotel's on both, so.
So you got land and land, and on one of the lands, you got something,
No, you got a hotel built on two lots.
oh, across the line.
Yeah.
That's it.
As a matter of fact.
Here's a picture. If you look at my first page right here, I've actually split it
You
between
guys
red
got
and
that
blue.
one?
This
Yeah.
You can tell on the first page right here, the hotel's connected in the middle, but the land is split in half. So half the hotel is on one parcel and half the hotel is on the other, but they're actually connected.
They're connected. You can see it
That's the,
right here.
Yes, that's the hotel. So right down the middle is that's the two parcels.
okay,
What's a little confusing on that picture for
So
some
the
reason,
blue is one side, so the blue is
but that's only one.
4-0, and then the other side on the left, that's
6-0.
6-0, so combined.
Okay, and
And on my first page, I combined them, split them.
Yeah, I
Yep.
see it.
yeah, and so the whole cell is
Yeah,
this.
there you go.
for
Blue
875.
line, We were looking at both parcels on one screen, which
Right.
probably is television wise difficult.
so the blue line encompasses all of the Mother Earth there that you know.
Can we go to the next screen?
Well, the picture in the
No.
bottom left corner is the whole hotel.
We're
The
going to
parcels
that
on
screen.
it.
I'm sorry.
If you have a next screen that shows the aerial that he's talking about, but I think we understand. It's not that it's that confusing, it's just. And he's saying that there was this fair market transaction, arm's length, that was for 875, and that's what he's. appealing for.
Correct.
All right, are we okay down there? Or do we need a,
Up to this point, yeah.
please now, say your name again.
Tessia Davis with the Tulsa.
Okay. Thank you.
So the main basis of this formula is the new owners want the property on for what they paid for it, and I, as the commercial appraiser for the county, don't feel comfortable with using that sale as fair cash value. And I have a couple reasons that make me believe it doesn't reflect the true value of the extended stay property as of January 2021 or second. So as you probably know, we vet our sales in a way that does a really good job at weeding out non-arm's length transactions or just sales that simply don't reflect the market as far as placing it on for that value. But this one was a little tricky. So I had to do some investigating during the informal process, and I just want to state right now, the owners provided zero financial information to me at the informal proceedings, other than the deed that of course we already had in our system. I requested data.
Didn't get this.
I did not get that. I just got the deed. I requested I had a data request in with them via email a week in advance. I didn't receive anything, but a copy of the deed. However, even without documentation, there's still a little bit of a red flag here with this sale, and that's the date of the sale. It was recorded in our office December 31st, so it happened December 30th, but the sales date in our system is December 31st. Which that leads me to believe that this was a move to ensure a fair cash value reflected that sales price, which on its own, it's not a reason to discredit the sale, but it's something to note. It was a reason why I had to investigate a little further when a sale happens less than 24 hours before situs. It just prompted me to look deeper. And then during the informal process, I was told by the owners that the sales price reflects 80 rooms. This extended stay hotel after the fire that occurred years ago actually has 102 suite style rooms. So right now there's 102 rooms there. That means that there are 22 rooms or 20% of the rooms that are that have income generating potential that were not counted for in the sales price.
And did that count, that is moving the count from 80 to 102, did you do that by inspection or how?
We inspected it, we went up there multiple times, CoStar confirms it, we also,
Right.
we made sure. So I understand that these rooms are not seen by the owner as rentable right now, they're not rentable. However, the state of a room doesn't exclude it from being accounted when being valued for taxation.
Are you
purposes.
saying it's not rentable because?
They don't feel like they can rent it right now, so maybe that something is not up to par. They don't want customers in there, however,
many
they are there.
rooms?
22 out of the 102 on there are down, so this sale reflects 80 rooms.
Did your inspection show that they were uninhabitable?
They were uninhabitable, they've been uninhabitable for years,
Okay, so
so we've
somebody has to
accounted
put
that,
one in.
we've
Yeah.
accounted for that in
Okay.
multiple appeal seasons.
Was the transaction an arm's length between a willing buyer and a willing seller?
It was really hard to tell. Yes, there was nothing that we could, yes, it was arm's length.
And let me
Nothing
also
that we
say
could-
something about that. In my experience, and I've been doing this since 1974, I gotta tell you that the last week of the year is probably the busiest week of the year for all commercial brokers to get things closed, mainly because of banking and because of other things that go along with it. So the red flag that came in for being on the.
It's certainly nothing wrong with it. It was just something
It's what
that
happens.
it
It's what happens.
made my ears perked up. I wanted to look deeper into the sale, especially it was a hard sale to verify in our office. And then, so of course, during the informal, they made it clear that it was sold as an 80-room hotel and there's 102, and that's after the fire. There was about, I want to say 130 or 140.
So
So-
you're saying that moved it off of the 875 and a willing buyer and a willing seller?
I do believe that they sold it based on 80 rooms and not 102 rooms because there's
But-
rooms that are down.
Two sets of business people
Sure.
bargaining here. And they said.
I think they got a great price for it. It doesn't necessarily mean that I think it's the market value. And that's why we dug deeper on this. I don't want to just chase the sale in that way. So that summarizes why we should not consider the sales price as the fair cash value of this property. And now I want to go into how I arrived at the current combined
And you said
value.
you were an appraiser,
Yes,
state certified?
Yes.
MAI?
I mean, I work for the assessor's
Are you an
office.
appraiser? Are you a
I have my
certified-
badge
You're
right
a
here.
certified appraiser. I just want to find out what kind of appraiser you are. And if you're an MAI, that's one thing. If you're a state certified
Okay,
appraiser.
Oh, here comes.
You have to identify yourself first.
Yes, Zach Blade, Tulsa County Assessor's Office. She works for me. I'm state certified.
You're state certified.
Right, and
Works for
she's
you.
an
You work
appraiser
there.
for
And that's
staff.
all I need to know. That's all I need to know. That's not,
Okay.
it was not an adversarial question.
Sure,
I need to know where the numbers come from.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yes, I want to restate that it is a valid sale. The date threw me off and how low the sale was. So I just did some investigating and it was told to me during the informal process that sale was based on 80 rooms and there are 102 rooms on there. That impacts the value of the property. So page 2, which hopefully clears up some stuff. Page 2 is dedicated to summarizing how I value the hospitality sector this year with COVID considerations. Every single hotel in Tulsa County was looked at regardless of the VI cycle. So we went really in depth this year with the hospitality sector as we knew that it was going to be hit pretty hard. All income pro formas utilized no greater than a 50% occupancy rate, as 52 to 55% is the range showed by publications. And when I say publications, I mean national publications like Real Capital Analytics, CBRE, and HBS Global Hospitality. And then I also used a reduced range of cap rates, and this was used to showcase a reduced amenities offered. And then in this red box on the top, on the right, I wrote, and I circled it for this reason, on average, via the Tulsa County Assessor's Office, hotels did receive a 15 to 30% reduction in value due to the way I valued this year with reduced a cap rate range and low occupancy. So no property received an increase in value based on income or market this year. But outlier properties that reflect the sustained tax year 2020 value have a history of being undervalued or have a PPU that is lower than what this pandemic impacted market can support. So most of the hotels here, with just the way I use my income pro forma and the way that I value hotels this year, it produced a 15 to 30% reduction. This property has been historically undervalued and I did all I could and it still created about a 4.5–5% reduction.
Undervalued based on what other like property?
Well, the price per unit right now, as I valued it, is at, and we can get to that on the third page, so we can move to the third page. The price per unit right now, as I value it, is $14,510. That's extremely low. That's one of the lowest price per units in Tulsa County. I use an ADR of 35. That's lower than the market supports, but that's what was told to me. So that's what was shared to me at the informal, and that's what I used. I used 102 rooms instead of 80 because there's 102 rooms on that property. I used the lowest supported occupancy possible at 40%. Any lower just would not be supported by any publications I could find. And I used the highest cap rate used this year. I also put a box here for an additional income note. This property runs a U-Haul rental truck business out of their parking lot. This was denied at the informal protest level by the owner, but it's clearly advertised online and trucks can be seen when visiting the property, and it's also on their aerial photos that they put on CoStar. I have proof, I check all the time to make sure that's still up. It was up before I checked at noon today. This property, if you look at the comments and you look at how long it was running, this U-Haul rental business they're running out of their hotel was there before the sale and after the sale. That needs to be considered in their sales price as well. I did not add it as additional income this year because I just don't have that information from them. But it's there and it should be valued as so. So to conclude, sales price doesn't reflect the total number of units. No data was shared during the informal process. There's an additional income component that is not being properly reported. And this is an extended stay property. If we go back to page 2, we can see that extended stay properties were impacted the least by COVID-19. They actually weathered the storm pretty well. And if you drive by extended stay properties right now, the parking lots they're doing a lot better than any other subcategory of hotel. So that is my reason to sustain. That's how I came up with the 1.48 million combined. The requested value that they're requesting, that would bring the key price, the price per unit to $8,500 a key. That would be the absolute lowest valued hotel in Tulsa County. That probably $1,000 to $2,000 lower than the lowest hotel properties already valued today. So
What was the market value last year or the previous year?
It should be on a green sheet, right?
combined, it was 4%
Before the
less
sale.
than
Before the sale.
before the sale. I don't have the green sheet in front of me. But it's about 4% more than what it's on for right now.
Well, last year.
Can we pull up the table and see what it was before the sale?
We have to combine them, so it gets a little sticky.
Well, the previous market's right. You're actually a little bit lower than.
I'm lower than last year, so, and that's just COVID consideration. Most hotels received 15 to 20% with my COVID consideration. That just how it came out in the wash. It came out to be about 5% reduction
Okay, so it's 748 and 789.
Yeah.
last
that's
year, and
what
this year
okay.
it's 740 for both. So a reduction did occur, about a 4.5% reduction.
Now, I heard two things that sounded like there was some potential disagreement between your presentation, her presentation, other than the 875 and 14. You seem to think the fire issue was still relevant to their operation, and that was why they had a reduced number of suites they could actually. Did you have a chance to inspect for that?
Well, that's part of the information. You can have, it's still gonna take money to get those where they're at a viable, rentable state as far as that is concerned. So it's gonna take some money. How much is that gonna be? 30,000, 40,000 units? We don't know. But she did mention one thing that's sort of interesting. You do use CoStar and you do like CoStar. CoStar is something we use in our business as well, just to see what the value of it is. She also mentioned the cap rate, and the cap rate is only used when you have actual income, where you got net operating income from where you take expenses away from it. So the process that she did was fine, but there's too many unknowns in that particular deal. So when we ask for financials, we have to have actual financials, and those have, since it came in December 30th, we don't have those financials that we can get P&Ls on and take a look at so that we can get a cap rate. We use a cap rate basically to sell the property. We don't use a cap rate to value the property. Property is valued on the net operating income and what the current cap rate is at that point. So that's what we end up doing. And since you didn't use CoStar, I'll let you use my copy, but I want to let the board have this copy. If you look where the orange tab is, there are 3 hotel sales that have happened with CoStar's information. And let me say, CoStar is not one of my favorite things to use as a comp. So, but I'm using it today because there's 2 sales there, 3 sales there, but 2 of them are flagged. This particular property, even though it's in state, is not flagged. Did you look at what the difference in flag income as far as a non-flag? They have a reservation process that goes on. So if you look at one that's called Baymont, that's actually not called Baymont any longer. It's called Comfort Inn, and that's sold for $10,000 a unit. It is in better shape than this particular one is. And if I were buying this particular property, I would look at how much income I would have to put in there to get it to a point where I could get my rental rate up. And if you take a look at Motel 6, again, a flagged property, it went for $13,000 a unit. If you look at the other one that is out there, I don't know why those people pay $20,000 a unit for it, but it has an indoor pool. It is a property that has had a tremendous amount of rehab on it. So that's probably where they adjusted their price. My way of looking at any property is how much you have to pay for it to get your note paid for and make some money. In this particular instance, we would cap what the income was. In this particular instance, since it was a manager that worked for the owner, he was looking to sell it. He bought it. Now, whether they can rehab it or not, that's another year. You'll have to look at it another year. We have to look at it in its present condition. I remember an old saying that we use an acronym called WIN. What's important now? What's important now is I don't look at COVID. I look at what the comps are and what we can sell it for. Ultimately, we'll look at income and then what the cap rate is. Because hospitality, if we don't get out of this COVID, we're not going to have 6, 7, and 8% cap rates. We're going to have 13, 14, 15% cap rates, which runs the price down. So from my perspective, I believe the first thing is it's an 875 sale. That sets the value, whether it's 2 pieces of ground or not. It sets the value, whether it's 120 rooms, whether it's 300 rooms, or whether it's 15 rooms. You set the value.
You know, the only question I had about that, even listening to your presentation, is employee and owner. That's very, very tricky.
And I looked at that too. If I hadn't known the seller, who I've worked with since 1985,
Yeah.
I would probably say, hey, we've got something that's sort of shady here and we can't do
Well, it's
that.
not so much even shady as I'm just saying, it's hard when you're that close and even though you're not doing anything illegal, you're trying to, but you, as you indicated, the story is the guy wants to move to Florida and get away, and the other guy is gonna say, I'll stay here, I've been your employee, give me a break. You know, I mean, I can hear the conversation.
Well taken. Do you guys know Stan Frisbee? I was a real estate director for the city of Tulsa when I left and I bought Stan's company. Stan wanted to go to Florida. His company was worth a certain amount of money. We knew each other.
Yeah.
So we worked out a deal where I didn't buy it for a number. I bought it for a number down and a little bit every time we closed one of his listings.
The key there is worth it for a deal. I don't think that doesn't need to be a deal involved in arms like.
So you sit there, and I use that as an example that anybody can come up with something that works for them when they own a place in Florida and they want to move to Florida and they say, I've got income coming in.
The other thing that I was still the only other, where I was trying just to get the paperwork. Was this the one you gave us?
Yes.
Okay, and you're saying you
I
didn't.
didn't receive it, no. I mean, he was hired after our.
No, I-
I didn't receive anything.
Yeah.
I didn't receive the deed really until after.
Okay, I can just ask you a question about this document you have given us today, okay? On page 2 of the 3, down at the bottom, I'm just trying to understand where this, you keep saying 875, but here is shown some kind of financial number that suggests that it is 1,084,130 due from seller and borrower totals.
Looks to me like there was a sales tax of $50,000 on goods sold. That included the personal property that's in there.
But that, well, I understand that, but wasn't that part of the sale? Didn't he buy the personal property?
Well, I think what you do is well, he bought the personal property, no question about it. And that's a good catch, but it was personal property, which is a number that they came up with between themselves. So that was part of the closing cost at closing, but it was not the contract price for the property itself, the rooms and whatever there.
I guess I just don't, Charles, you're the one who should be asking this question. You study these all the time, you know. What do you think about this financial statement that he's offering? Because my problem, again, I'm Charles, CPA and an auditor and all that. Me, I am coming at this a lot of.
I'm not.
That's kind of a disparaging remark.
Well, my wife is too, so I'm in your great company.
Okay.
But I'm just trying to understand, you know, you came up with the 875. Is it on here somewhere and I'm just not seeing it?
875 is on the first page.
Gosh, there it is over under credit. Yes, got it. And debit. Okay. Then the stuff after that, this is what's confused me. Come on, Charles, explain to the
Closing statement.
illiterate why this closing statement doesn't suggest there was more than 875 going on here.
I'm hearing conversation here that this was not at fair value. But then the accountant says a willing buyer and a willing seller.
Sure.
Change money at $875,000.
But does that with the financial statement that he showed us,
Well,
show us?
And-
Well, that's why I'm asking.
If I could just say something,
Yes.
it wasn't an open market transaction is what we're hearing here. It's between kin. So at 875, there's no way for our office to, they're not related.
No real estate.
It's not an open
broker
market transaction. It was not
involved, in
posted.
other words.
No, they cut me out of it.
That is one of the ways we know a fair market transaction happens is they had to pay off the real estate, had to pay a real estate.
Right. And if you look at this, you have goodwill for a billboard that has nothing to do with the value of the hotel. The billboard's there. If you take a look at the rest of it, you've got abstracting, you've got attorney's fees, you've got lender's title insurance. Those are all numbers that are there. And then you have sales tax on $50,000 personal goods stuff, Oklahoma Tax Commission, which had to be collected.
Now, is the U-Haul itemized in there? I just want to make sure that they're U-Haul business. that
And I
they're
just asked them that,
carrying
they
it through
said
there.
they started doing that again a month ago, and that would come up on your 2021.
Okay, well, I have reviews and if you look at the website, they have reviews going from October 2020 all the way until the end of March. So for me, with the information that I have, it seems that it was sold with the property, or at least they had the trucks there, they had something, there was additional income happening out of their office.
And I think that income will be shown in 2021, for sure.
It
The
wasn't
other
showing up ever
thing you
before.
just gave us that I wanted to make sure I understand, I know about co-stars, that's not new. But was this property on here somewhere and I just didn't see it?
No, it was not, which was, and that's why I say I don't like using CoStar as a number. I don't like using GTAR as a number, or comps, because even though we have access to that, I don't believe anything can happen when you're keep munching. And so we have to go out and we have to take a look at it. And what we look at is what the actual net operating income is on a commercial property.
Yeah.
And then we'll look at that and put a cap rate on whatever the current cap rate is. We don't take into consideration, as she has done with COVID and some of the other aspects that are affecting our marketplace. I will tell you, in Oklahoma City, cap rate is different than it is here.
Sure.
And cap rate in Bartlesville is different than it it's also long.
Yeah.
So that's why experience has to be used to set a value.
I also want to point out on these sales comparisons, the ones that he's highlighted, these sales were in 2019. So these sales had nothing to do with the 2020 tax year. Beyond that, the rest of what's on this list, land, industrial live work, land specialty, they're not hotels.
No, they're not. That's why we don't look at it.
Well, they're on here and they're on the map.
Well.
The ones that he highlighted, they're all sales from 2019. So they wouldn't be sales that I would use for comparisons because they were not in tax year
Well, then
2020.
would you weigh, I'm gonna ask you a question, if you just walk into it. If you're gonna weigh 2020 with COVID and what that was affecting,
Mhm.
all we have is what's sold. There weren't very many sales in 2020.
I think there were about 3 in Oklahoma. I don't think there were many hotel sales, but the ones that you've highlighted here, I see that one here.
And I-
All of these right here, what they're requesting is a price per unit of $8,500.
I-
So the lowest one on here is $10,000. It's not even close to what you're requesting. Your
And-
price is
and maybe-
$8,500.
Maybe most of them were built downtown where they were giving ground, plus they were in a tax increment district. plus
They certainly were.
Yeah, no, they were built. We don't have that many purchased because of COVID
Sure.
and because of occupancy. It's sort of like houses today. We don't have enough houses
Yeah.
built.
I didn't include sales comps this year on any of my hotels because there just were not enough valid sales. It was not something that I thought would be arguable at all unless we went to a bigger market, and then we're not reflecting Tulsa County. So I did not use sales comps. If we're using equity comps, right on the spot, motel set, there are certain reasons why these might not be comps. I wouldn't just take this. These might be portfolio sales that reduce the room count. I just don't know. I did not bring comps into this conversation.
Well, I think you said there's only been about 4 sales throughout the whole state. These are 3 of them and they
In
were
2019.
in 2019. But 2019 set the value for 2020.
Pre-COVID.
I
I'm
got a
not sure.
question. What does this figure reflect on the form that you got?
The bottom line number.
You got the two, one million.
That what they do is they do a balancing act on closing statements. That takes care of all this. Plus,
I'm just right here. Are these the two properties? What is that?
you know, what they're doing is they're taking their cost and they're adding in what was due from the borrower here. And so if you take this page, right here, you have 875. You have a loan amount. So what happens is this funky way of auditing are coming up with totals. And I hate it the way that the closing statements are done that way. Somebody's like, gee whiz, I need to bring another 150,000. That's not the case. It's arbitrary numbers that were used to balance.
Okay,
credit
and then
together.
that second sheet, where I'm asking you the question, it looked like it's reflecting the two properties. And this is the cost.
What it's doing is it's taking, these numbers should equal this number, which is really crazy. I don't know why it does that way. I don't know why these closing companies do that, but what you're doing is you're taking a credit, 875, 50, 150, a debit, a 430, which
And then
is.
we got two properties, is that right?
No, you got one hotel,
But they've been,
but they're on 2 pieces of ground.
okay,
And so there you go. That's what we needed. This is the hotel, the gray area.
Yeah.
And these are the tax parcels. And that's the difference. They're 2 tax
so is
parcels.
this reflecting two tax parcels here?
No, it's just closing statement on the purchase of the hotel and the two parcels.
The other thing but Charles, if you want to speak up to help either Ruth or I understand a little bit of that closing statement, I admit that the fact that it looks to me like there was a value exchange that was larger than the 875.
And I can't get past that. I mean, I can understand the debits and credits here.
Yeah, sure.
But it's almost like there's something off balance sheet here that is not reflected in this situation. Yeah. I hear transactions at higher numbers here and all of a sudden pull the books on me and say, well, we only paid 875. But then you bought personal property and you bought the goodwill.
And the the billboard and that was part of the transaction, but it wasn't part of the sale of the hotel.
Well, then again, you end up with an economic value unit, and that's always the other thing too. let me simply point to one other set of numbers for the board, and then I think we're gonna have to move on this and make a decision. Looking at your green sheets for a moment together, let me just make sure we all understand. You know what I'm talking about here is this one, okay? Because this is the other piece of information that the board, it's the first time we see it, so I always have to look and say, where's the differences? What they showed as a current market last year, am I reading this correctly, Charles, is on one parcel, 757, but on the other, 1,124,700.
Where you,
I'm right here in current market.
You don't carry
okay,
taxable.
so you can go again now.
And that's why it seems to me, when I look at what the assessor did, she lowered it.
I did.
On both of them, but the one that was the big one was not the previous market, the previous year. I could see that's much closer. One there was just 748, 789. So I assume you had the conversation. And that was what happened after the informal that they had initially, she did, or the assessor's office did, these higher numbers. And when they came in today, they are willing to live with the 740, 740.
Well,
That's a huge difference.
that's land value though.
Well, on
Land
the green
value
sheet,
included
that's
in the
not,
740,000.
that's current, that's supposed to be fair market value. They don't show us anything else.
Okay, and we removed that one building in the middle there. Where you've removed this, as far as that's concerned. So that was. referring-
That's not what was removed. If you're talking about a fire, it was a separate.
That was in the back.
Yes,
That
correct.
was in the back right here, but that building in the middle has been removed as well. So
Like, when
Why
was it
would it be
removed? Last
removed?
week? I mean, I'm being serious. I was just out there and that building was there. And these photos on CoStar, it was certainly there Jan 1, is what I'm saying.
Okay, I understand that. Explain to me, green sheet, why you showed this number in the middle. You guys produced that number?
The 740,
That's the only kind of green sheet I get is from you guys that I'm aware of. Here's the one where the big numbers are.
this is what we have on there for right
No,
now.
I know that,
Uh-huh.
but why did you go down?
I made the adjustment. I just wanted to make sure the parcels were somewhat even because I do think that they will be combined eventually. I looked at it as a total economic view, so
But
unit,
even
so-
as a total economic.
I went down, well, I considered COVID. I went down about 4.5%.
Okay.
Most hotels, and you're gonna see me a lot probably because hospitality took a big hit. Most
Sure.
hotels received between a 15 and 20% reduction in value just by how I use cap rates. Not using an occupancy higher than 50%. I really let the market drive me. I'm not a fee appraiser. I value the market.
Okay.
So that 4% is just what came out in the wash when I considered COVID with the information I had about that property. So a reduction was made. And that was, yes.
I'm asking a slightly different question. It's procedural.
Mhm.
It's not asking you business about, you just talked about. What you did.
Uh-huh.
That's how you ended up with the 740, 740.
Mhm.
I understand that. Who generated that number? And why did we have the increase from last year that then got decreased by the time we get to the board? That sounds like something happened from the initial valuation and then after the
So
informal.
you're talking like last year. Because last year this
It says
went-
here, no, last year was 748, 789, 9. Somewhere between last year, previous
Mhm.
market, and this year, which is listed as current market first. When I usually see this green sheet, if there's a change between those two numbers, it means something happened at the informal.
Yes, I reduced it a little bit lower after receiving I decided to use their actuals with ADR and that brought down the value a little
So
bit.
400,000 reduction.
Correct. The market uses an ADR
Okay.
for this is about $55. They reported $35 as their daily rate. The market is supporting about a 50% occupancy market, nationwide. Tulsa is a little bit overbuilt and there's a lot of antiquated rooms. I decided to use a 40% occupancy. So I used the lowest end of the market possible on everything in my pro forma. And that was after my informal. I wanted to make sure that I was really trying to figure out how they got that sales price so low. That's what it came to.
Can I ask a
I'm
question?
gonna give him one more shot and then I'm gonna ask us.
I just want to know what the value, what you came up with as far as the value is concerned. We feel like it's 875,000.
Yeah,
What?
1,480,005.
Yeah. She does 2 740s, but that is a huge reduction. It's almost 400,000 from where they were before she got a hold of it. That was the question.
Yes, I made an adjustment after.
Why did that? That's a big adjustment. Other questions from the board other than me now, or we need to decide about this one?
Well, we need to decide, but what are we trying to decide?
Well, whether we're gonna sustain what she's offering us, which is on the 2 parcels, 1 economic unit, 740 on each one, which comes up to a combined value of 1,480,000.
As opposed to if we went with what the employer is asking,
He wants a combined value.
so we
that
would
we
divide
have-
that 8,000.
Well, no, it'd be
What was the total?
875,000. 875
Into 2
for both.
for both.
No, I mean, not on each boat, but together. So
Combined.
we put 400 and what's 875.
We divide that total.
Yeah, 875 divided by 2.
I would move to sustain.
So you're wanting to go with the 740 on each of these protested properties today that are 1 combined economic unit as a hotel. Charles, what about you?
I don't know, there's something about the 875 I don't understand.
That's my problem too, but I'm not sure I even understand the 1,124,700 today. Let's put it that way. But she gave me a break on that one. It's a 1 economic unit, so we're struggling with that. It's had some fire damage, we're
Yeah.
struggling with that. We have 2 different approaches. One reports what he sees as a fair arm's length legal sale between an owner and an employee. It did not have a public listing on real estate anywhere, correct? Then the third thing is this, it went up in a large way and then came down. I wondered if that had to do with fire, frankly. That was where I was thinking, oh my God, maybe that was where they tried to show. Anyway,
Well, they took out a lot of units.
yeah. What about it, Charles? I'm inclined right now to probably join Ruth and sustain, but if you see some reason why 875 is.
That just sounds too low.
Okay, then we are as a board in agreement. If whatever the rationale, fortunately, I just have to write 1 sentence. I'll ask one of you, or Ruth, one of you
Ruth
make
has
a
already
motion.
moved it one
Are
time.
we doing them as 2 separate units? So the first one would.
We'll have to vote them separately because we have them as 2 pieces of paper, okay? So let's take protest, but we've got to consider it as a combined economic unit because both of the presentations have done that. She's proposing the 740, which ends up being 1480. That's her proposal. If you sustain on one, we will sustain it on the other. Okay, I will.
I thought you,
No, it's okay. No.
I thought we were just waiting on the number.
Okay,
So-
no, I will move to, I'm now on we've got to do the parcel separately. I'm sorry, the protests separately. 1288 is the first protest on our agenda. Tear LLC, it is a combined unit with the second one, 1289, but I will vote I move that we sustain on this first one at 740,000.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote on that.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes, to
Mr. Van-
sustain.
Mr. Van Willing,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes,
And I will move that we vote on the second one of the same single economic unit, but protest number 1289 to also sustain at 740,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to sustain. Who vote as the roll is called?
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Van Willing,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
yes.
So ordered by action of the board, this is fair market value for economic unit. I'm sorry. Yes, yeah, you gotta take all that. Yeah. I'm writing the same thing on both of them, so you can figure out one of them, you'll be okay.
Why don't you keep that so you don't.
Sure. Yes. And that takes care of both of those. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Next up on our agenda, another commercial property. This one is listed as protest number 1315. HMD 31 LLC, David Solconnect. Okay. Oh, this is me. I've got to talk on the telephone. And they hear me okay? That's close enough. We'll see. It's gonna be 1315, 1316, and 1317. We'll ask them if they're combined economic units or if we're dealing, or you can tell them.
Three different.
The three different
Stores,
ones, okay, but same tax rate.
Oh, David?
Yes, this is Ted Catchell. I chair the Tulsa County Equalization Board, and we're here to hear the three protests that you are representing, as we understand it on today's agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I appreciate you guys giving me a call.
Okay. Oh, what's your name?
Oh, yes, my name is David Buchanan.
David, thank you. We're going to deal with the three properties obviously separately. The first one on our protest agenda is 1315, and it is called the HMD-31 LLC. And I will read what I have in writing from you and tell you also what documents we have, if any that are attached, and then you can address it any way you wish to. It says here that this protested property is at 2100 West New Orleans Street South. It is currently on for $729,900. They're proposing to leave it at that. You say in your written appeal that you believe it should be adjusted to $654,210 for the following reasons. Sales were down 22% over the last year, sales due to the pandemic. Now, attached, I'm just looking quickly here. We don't get these things, by the way, until we come to the hearing, so you're going to be, you're welcome to go through and talk about them any way you want, but it looks like I have from your group an Oklahoma economic obsolescence summary, then a long series of where those properties are that you are using as comparable, listed from 2018, 19, and 2020. And then you're talking about the tax assessment, where it says the lessee shall be entitled to contest any tax or assessment in good faith, so long as such contest shall not result in forfeiture of the subject property. And then you have a lease, I believe, attached, is that correct? And
Yeah, but the lease, the purpose of the lease was to just show that Come and Go is responsible for the taxes and responsible for the appeal process because the owner of the property is a different name, but Come and Go is still legally responsible for the property taxes. So.
this is like a triple net lease. Is that right? Is it a triple net lease?
Yeah, they all are. They're all triple net. They're all sale lease back, triple net leases. Yeah.
Okay. Please, then I guess.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's hard to understand you, but I'm doing my best.
Well, I'm sorry that we have to do it this way, but yes.
Yeah.
If you don't hear me or later, a little bit closer to the microphone is going to be the assessor staff who's handling your protest. So he'll be easier to understand. But go ahead. Is there anything else other than what I have read into the record so far that you wish to stress?
So yeah, I sent an attachment talking about economic obsolescence for C stores. And so I have 3 appeals and all the arguments are the same, but essentially what's happened is I sent an attachment called Oklahoma Economic Obsolescence Summary.
Yes, we do have that.
And on the second page of that is a full listing of all the Come and Goes in Oklahoma, excluding the ones that were built in the last 2 years because the sales percentages won't, because since they're too recent, the sales percentage increase or decrease won't match because there's no prior years to relate it to. So that's why I didn't include those. So, but the 3 properties that I appealed, store 839, store 844, and store 887, they had significant decrease in sales from prior years. And so this specific store, 2100 West New Orleans Street in Broken Arrow, it had a 35% decrease in fuel sales. It had a 0% decrease in in-store sales, but an overall 22% decrease in sales from 2019. And I wish I could share with you the actual sales numbers, but Come and Go is very specific with me, and they do not let me share any sort of income or expense data, and they don't want to share the any of their lease detail. And I know that's a burden to anyone trying to value a property, but they prefer to keep that data private than let their competitors get a hold of their sale margin and all their sales info, because it can be a detriment to their overall business model. And so I'm only able to give you the percentage of decrease, the increase or decrease of sales percentage wise, and not share the actual numbers. But I only appealed. Come and Go has, I believe it's like almost 25 properties in Tulsa County, and I've only appealed these 3. And these are ones with some higher, like the highest percentage decrease in sales. So the 2100 West New Orleans, it decreased 22% since 2019. And this has to directly relate to the pandemic, and there's just not as much traffic, flowing through the stores as there was pre-pandemic.
And I understand that this is your testimony, the 22%. Do you document that in any way for the assessor's staff and office?
Did I document that? Yeah, I gave that to them when I appealed this informally.
Okay, and that documentation would have been, since you said you can't provide them with, what did you provide them financially with, other than that statement?
No, I didn't provide them with any sort of financials except for the percentages of the change in sales from 2018 through 2020 annually. And so I was only able to provide the percentage of increase or decrease of sales, but not the actual numbers.
That's strange. I do understand the issue of the argument. We certainly have heard it before about competitive advantage and all that. That's not a new argument. So I understand why some companies hold to that. But usually they come up with some gross number at least. And you're saying they did not provide you with that.
No, they won't provide me with that, and they keep that very internal, and they don't want any of those numbers getting out to the public. And I understand that that's not, typically how, one values real estate. You need those numbers typically, but I'm just doing the best I can, trying to help them.
No, we understand.
So
you can only do what your client lets you do. I understand that. But I just wanted to be clear so that when I hear the assessor staff, I'll know what he's working with, what he says. Are there other members of the board that want to add? Well, there are two other members of my board, Charles Vanderwhtley, who is an auditor, and Ruth Gaines, who, like me, is a retired, teacher, professor. None of the above. Anyway, we're here because they asked us to be on the board. But Charles does speak with some auditorial expertise. He at least claims such. Charles, do you have any question that you want to ask directly? And then I'll give Ruth a chance.
I think we're flying a bit blind here.
Yeah.
The old story, trust me.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding.
It's difficult. This telephone, we're in a new space and the telephone is sitting about 6 feet away from us. So it's a trek. Ruth, did you want to try and join in here? Or?
I'm just understanding that the request for the reduction is due to the 22% decrease in sales due to COVID.
That's
correct?
what it says.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. And and there's more information as to the overall state of the convenience store market on that Oklahoma economic obsolescence summary that I provided. And can you guys see the whole chart that I sent also?
Yeah, we passed
the
it.
entire store listing.
Ruth hasn't had a chance. Charles has got it in front of him. I looked at it. Yeah, there's obvious general trend here that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you have that too.
Yeah,
so we're looking at the same thing. Okay.
Well, look, I'm going to go ahead. My board members can ask some more questions, but I'm going to ask the assessor's staff to identify himself and speak to this particular protest, okay?
Ronnie Cookson, Tulsa County Assessor's Office, and I have some handouts.
Super. And then you can sit close to the telephone so he can hear you clearly. That would be nice. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, basically, protest was based on the decrease in sales. I think overall that was just a blanket 10% reduction they're requesting, but to be fair and equitable across the board, I looked at it and I'm like, well, if I did this to them, there might be 143 other stores that would really love some relief like that too. Being that there's about 80 QTs, about 35 come and goes, 26 Fiesta Marts. And so that would have been kind of hard to justify if, there had been a line out the door to say, okay, I'll take one too. But looking at this as from the landlord's perspective, as he's got a nice triple net long-term lease with the corporate guarantee, we're just hopefully seeing the come and go situation as a dip in the road as far as the fuel decrease and just lower demand for people driving and using gas. So with that also being said, we're going to go ahead and do our diligence of looking at those three approaches too, to make sure we've got our attributes for the building and the property in line with our cost approach, looking at, quality, class, condition, year build, things like that. So that seemed to be okay, as far as accuracy and things. We see some depreciation. That's kind of what I'll show you when we get to looking at our market comparables that we did. You'll find that the Broken Arrow one is actually a little bit on the low side, and that's going to be that last page.
Right.
Kind of the top and bottom orange highlights is going to kind of give you your average, and then the one up top's the subject. But so the BA one is actually a little bit out of that range on the low side. We looked at that income pro forma too, looking at, cap rates for the general market area, the rental rates for that particular area. We're in Broken Arrow on one, we're in Jinx on another one, Tulsa on the other one. And then, just kind of, the sales is really what's going to kind of show us what we're looking at here. If you look to the far right on the green, we've got the price at $726.9 on this one, and the per square foot price is $223.94. Average, and all these that I've got on the comparables are, from within our market: Tulsa, Sand Springs, Owasso, Broken Arrow. The far right market range is a lot tighter than what you see and what they've sold for.
Is the main difference here, since there is a range obviously showing in square footage, is that mainly year built kind of thing or what?
A little bit of it is that, because when they're set on a cost approach, they're going to start depreciating.
Right.
And then the land values, depending on where it is, can really change that square footage. Yeah.
Sure.
So I think that's why you're seeing this one kind of below that range. It just built in 94. It was on a cost approach, so it's a lot of depreciation. So really this one's low, and that's sort of why we're wanting to sustain it. It's just, and again, just appraisal based on a sale price of a tenant, you just can't do, to be honest and fair.
Sure.
And all that good stuff. But
particularly when it has a triple lease.
exactly, yeah. If you're looking at that, this is unfortunate maybe in the short term for come and go, but hopefully they're going to snap out and start, getting the sales back up again.
Did you understand what the assessor is arguing in his analysis of your situation?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. I'm assuming that we're going to end up, as they say, same song, second verse with each one of these. Is that right?
It's pretty much the same story. It's just, again, they're in a little bit different location. Maybe the market rents are changing a little bit, but I think if we stick to our sales comparables and kind of look at the ranges and look at our subjects. And
now the one long piece of analysis and documentation that the board is looking at is this from Schwartz and Associates, the Oklahoma Economic Obsolescence Summary. Did you have that in front of you?
I did not see that. No.
Okay. Why don't you take a peek at it while we let the tax representative talk. You've heard what the general approach of the assessor, which is going to probably impact all three of these protests, What is your initial comment about that? He's looking at your obsolescence report. Mr. Solomon? Hello?
Hello, I'm sorry, I was, what was the question? I thought you were.
I was just saying, since the assessor staff has given his first presentation about this approach, and I just handed him your obsolescence summary report because he hadn't seen that. I'm giving him a chance to kind of look at it, but I thought while he's doing that, he's saying he believes this is a temporary downturn and that with a triple net lease, the landlord is not in a bad situation and that we should therefore sustain what the assessor is proposing. What other comment would you like to make other than, as I said, he's looking at your obsolescence summary right now?
Yeah, I don't have too much else to offer as far as information. I can say that a lot of these stores, they sell on sale leasebacks and the sale prices they're not a legit sale of sticks and bricks. It's more of a sale of the come and go brand. You know, like these sale leasebacks, what they include, like as far as how, or like, I guess how it works is, so, I mean, you guys are probably familiar with sale leasebacks, but come and go buy some land, they build their store, they own it, then they sell it to an investor who wants to use Come and Go's credited reputation, you know, to make money back on their investment. And because Come and Go doesn't want to be owners of real estate, and some of these things that Come and Go includes in their leases are essentially like all the indoor, all the refrigeration, all the gas pumps, the canopies, the tanks that are underground, the dispensers, the shelving, the soda dispensers. You know, all those are included in the sale. And when they decide to terminate the lease or the lease expires, what happens is Come and Go actually, they come in there and they remove all the tanks, all the canopies, all the dispensers, and they rip all that out of the ground, and and all they leave is 4 walls and a slab of concrete. And so, yeah, I understand that some of these sale prices are higher, but they're not true sales of the land and the building. You're really selling the Come and Go brand as an investment, because if they wanted to resell that property after Come and Go leaves, there's not going to be the tanks, there's not going to be the dispensers, there's not going to be any of the indoor merchandise, any of the refrigeration, all that's gone. And so like and I think the county knows that because they don't value all these at the sale price because of the sale leasebacks. But I just wanted to put that out there as far as looking at sales of these stores.
Sure. Well, I assume that the landowner's thinking with this triple net lease that they're gonna make their investment, you know, what they are hoping for their ROI while Come and Go is there, and that they will be faced with a very different real estate situation after, if and when Come and Go decides to move. So we're really just talking about the economic ups and downs, as you pointed to, in terms of their revenue flow, as you reported in this first case, 22%. What did you, he did have a chance to look at your presentation on obsolescence. So I'll ask the assessor staff to speak to his understanding of that.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I ascertained there, that's just a report they made, and it just kind of does say that fuel sales have decreased over the last few years a little bit for them. But again, it's kind of the real estate, not what they're doing in the business, that's our concern. So again, I'm just looking at this as a dip in the road as far as referring to the sales of the gas, I guess, but As far as the real estate, I feel like we're fine. If not on the low side, based on being on a cost approach and having depreciated a little bit excessively.
Yeah,
Two of these properties were raised just a little bit, not much. What was the reason for the increase?
Let's see. Get on mark.
first one essentially is flat, right? It didn't go up.
Yeah, I was thinking there wasn't any change of value going on in those.
726, 300, 726, 900. Am I looking at it incorrect?
Let's see here.
Yeah, that's right. There was but basically just a 3,000. Well, no, not even
300.
that, it's
600.
$600.
And then the next one went up just a little bit also.
Yeah, that's 600.
Well, we hope it's not a
Not
typo.
sure.
It's certainly not a huge impact one way or the other. on
No,
this. $9 worth
of.
of estimated tax.
Yeah, not sure there exactly.
Anyway.
Sorry, I can't answer that.
That's okay. I think, speaking now to the tax rep, I think from what they're showing is he showed us 7 come and go sales in the area. And essentially, this particular property we're talking about right now is actually on the low end of those. Part of that obviously has to do, it's both good location, but some of the others may be even better. And so it varies. It's right now, a square foot is the lowest one of the ones they're showing us, whereas the average of the comparables is almost twice as much, 417 per square foot. Anyway, I don't think we're going to be able to do much here for you, but let me ask my colleagues if they have any questions of either of you about this first protest property. Charles?
No.
And Ruth, did you have further you wanted to explore with either of them on this first protest?
Well, I asked, but there was no response to why.
What was, ask it
The
again.
difference between,
Yeah.
why did it go up a little bit? We decided you couldn't tell.
$600.
Only went up 600 bucks.
Well, it's going up.
So,
Yeah. When you ran the numbers in what was it, cost basis you were running to generate that again for this year? It's sustained basically from last year.
Yeah, that one, there was no change of value in that one. And then there's one that we'll talk about that's just the taxables catching up to the fair market.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to ask the board to make a decision on this first protest. It is on our agenda as number 1315. They're proposing, if we sustain it, to keep it where it was last year at 726,900. I will so move. Is there a second to my motion?
second.
It's been moved and seconded that we will sustain. We'll vote as the roll is called to sustain.
Dr. Ketchum,
Yes.
Mr. Van Willen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes,
Yes, to sustain. This is the fair market value for this particular come and go. All right, as I suggested earlier, is from your earlier comment, Mr. Silverman, that you think each of these are pretty much similar in situation if they're in different locations.
Yeah, I would say that they're all the same argument, all the same situation.
Oh, let me read into the record since I have to make a tape of it. And then I'll give you a chance to comment. The second one is protest number for 1316. It's located at 1111 West 81st Street South here in Tulsa. It was on previously for $2,308,500. They're proposing to leave it at that. It was that similar last year. The request on the part of the client's representative is that it should be stated down to $2,077,650. He reports that the sales were down 23% over last year due to the pandemic. All right, is there any other thing? I have a feeling we're being repetitive here on all sides. As you said, there probably isn't a difference in the analysis and argument. Is that correct, Mr. Susan?
Correct, there's same argument, same analysis,
Oh, okay,
and it's the same, all the same information that I was able to provide.
I understand. What about you representing the assessor? Do you want to point out anything?
Yeah, you may want this package, just
Sure.
look at that income approach, just to kind of see.
Okay.
That's kind of confirming where we're at, and then also just on that market comparable page, we'll have the subject at the top of the line, the accurate square foot price.
Yep.
Your
Yours
bill.
worth a little more is what you're saying in terms of yours, well, quite a bit more in terms
Yeah.
of your assessment.
And then, the little map on the front, it's right there at the south end of Tulsa Hills at 81st, right on that corner you go in. So really good location, kind of a little bit newer than the last store we talked about.
Well, that whole shopping area mall is new pretty much.
Yeah, it is. It's action packed there for sure. So yeah, we kind of got our market rental rate from out there, did our pro forma vacancy collection expenses, and I did use the 7.5 cap rate just for the area and the convenience store market. That's going to confirm that value that we have it set on. And this one actually falls within the range. That market range I had was 323 to 541. We're looking at this one at 476. So that one I think is pretty good too. It's right in there.
Well,
Based on
it looks
location.
like it's
So,
the best one that they are protesting today in terms of its.
yeah, it would be. And, a lot of that's land, a lot of it's a newer building.
Sure. Well, that's why I've said that mall is pretty close to, I don't know, how many years it's been out there, 5, 8?
Yeah, I
Something
more
like
like
that.
8.
It's pretty fresh, I know that. It's the newest of our area, other than what they're beginning to do in Owasso, I guess. Again, I'm not sure we can change much here for you or your client, Mr. Suganek. I think we're just stuck. This property is valued at quite a higher total value, of course, but it is, its location is considerably better. And therefore, the 23% drop in revenue that you point to because of the pandemic should just be a glitch. If we get out of this pandemic, which it appears we're going to this year, do you have anything further you want to point out to the board before we try to make the judgment?
No, I do not.
Okay. Then I'll move again based on the information we have in front of us that we would sustain the current one at $2,308,500 as a fair market value for this come and go at this location. Is there a second to my motion? Second. It's been moved and seconded to sustain. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwilling,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
Board has acted to sustain this as the fair market value assessment on this come and go property. All right, we have one more that you represent. Let me read what I've got in the form of protest. And then you can add or comment any way you want. This one is, board is that similar, I assume similar come and go again. And we're looking at this one located in Jenks at 11030 South Elm Street West in Jenks, Oklahoma. It was previously on for $1,006,100. They're proposing to leave it at that. He says he believes it should be corrected down to $905,490. The sales were down about 24% over last year's sales due to the pandemic. Again, I think I'm reporting accurately to the board that your analysis and argument is similar. I did notice though, when I looked on here, and I'll ask the assessor staff to comment on that, but first, Mr. Sulkanek, what do you want to say, anything in particular about this protest?
No, I don't have anything further than what I've already stated about the other two.
The one question I wanted to ask our assessor staff here, there does seem to be this, is this such a new property or something? There's a big discrepancy between the taxable value as it is listed and the current fair market values. Doesn't that mean their taxes are going to creep up in this case, right?
Yeah, it is going to be that 5% increase.
Is this just because well, you have a presentation, go ahead, but it strikes me therefore you may be looking at a even newer construction, is that it? Or what?
No, this one was, I believe, in '01.
Okay.
And something tells me maybe it was the land value changed perhaps.
Okay.
And that, that could have been in part to that Walmart neighborhood market that kind of shadow, what they'll call shadow anchors.
Yeah.
There's just, again, it's pretty much the same, it'll be a different income. And then that subject property will be up top there. But yeah, it's not quite in the hustle and bustle as that last one, but yeah, right there in Jenks, right where very high traffic, Walmart, neighborhood market.
And it's,
Right
I
there.
see your market sales per square foot drops dramatically in comparison to the last one or to your comparable averages.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this one falls outside that range on the lower end as well.
Yeah.
So, that told me we're probably okay where we're at on this one. And again, this has been a pretty active as far as investors wanting to get a property, these are, they'll sell them right there toward the end when they maybe have 5-7 years left on that lease, and then they'll get the next property owner underneath to come and go, and they start to pick up on that stream too. So it's hard to say exactly, what jumped it, but I think just the growth in that area is why you see that taxable so low.
Do you have when they built this one?
It's 01.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's 01. So
That's surprising me. The land is that different than maybe where it is. I guess. Mostly it's land value. Is that it?
that's what I would assume. Yeah, I looked at that and
That's a change. Yeah.
and yeah, that's a pretty big stretch for sure, but certainly if it was anywhere close to that, it'd be less than 20.
Okay. He's reporting again on basically just what information he has that they're down 24% in terms of sales. But that's right in keeping with the other two properties. In terms of revenue flow only. Charles, do you see something here I'm missing that you want to pursue?
Idle question, the adjustable tax is 561,000, market's 1,000,006.
Yeah,
What is it?
that's what I was arguing. I mean, wasn't arguing. That was my question also.
I can speak to that. I'm Tim Grass with the Tulsa County Assessor's Office. Let me look at our cabinet real quick. In 2000 and just to get the right number.
It was built 2001. So that is what?
So from 2016 to 2017,
Yeah.
we increased the land value of that parcel.
And
And it was like 87,000, I think is what it says, and now we're up to, which could have been a couple bucks a square foot. But now we're up to $15 a square foot based upon it being on a corner lot at 100, and I think it's 11 now.
They must have added something, renovation or? did
No,
they-
that area as it develops, I mean, when they develop those areas, they're gonna have we're gonna have smaller values on larger parcels and we start splitting stuff off or whatever. And so you might have, so I had a land value on that property in 2016 of 439,900, and we increased it to 1,006,100. So that big jump is from saying, this is no longer just a piece of vacant land sitting out in the middle of nowhere, they built on it or what have you. Usually when they build on it is when we actually remove the cap on the land on that usually. So
Yeah.
somehow that didn't happen when they built it or what have you. And then we went ahead and increased the value of the property because it's sitting on a corner of 111th and Elm and Jinx. So it's a hot corner property where they're developing. So, but when we increase that, that's why you see that low taxable compared to that higher market, because we didn't go over the cap on that. It's still jumping up 5%.
So they're just gonna face it until they catch up.
Basically, so we'll all probably be long gone.
Somebody will be. Mr. Solconnect, I think we're gonna vote to sustain this also. I just was trying to understand why there was that bigger discrepancy, but right now it favors your client actually, since it's a lower taxable value. Is there anything else you either want to say or ask about before we move ahead to probably sustain this evaluation?
No, I don't, but I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here. Sorry we have to do it this way, but all of us are a little restricted right now. Thank you very much. We'll say goodbye. We're
All right.
voting to.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we're voting to sustain. Is there a second to my motion?
Second.
Sustain, it's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the road is called.
Dr. Ketchum,
Yes.
Mr. Van Willen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
Yes, this is the fair market value for property with some economic revenue with 24% decline in revenue. I believe we have finished another agenda, friends. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
The moved and seconded to adjourn. We'll vote as the roll is called to adjourn.
Dr. Ketchum,
Yes,
Mr. Van Willen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
we are adjourned.